one of the biggest difference, and there are a lot of similarities, but one of the biggest difference between a marriage and stock investing, and I hope this is something you agree with, is that you cannot diversify, right? so as you rightly pointed out, who you choose, right, is very, very crucial. And in stocks we have criteria like you have yours, where you make sure that there's a long runway and things like that. And how should people who want to create wealth in stocks through especially the value investing method, what are some of the, for lack of a better word, criteria that you need to have in your experience when you choose a spouse?
When I choose a spouse.
Because it's going to be very important.
Oh,
right?
wow, MJ.
Yes.
This is becoming more of a
Last
personal question for yourself.
It's more for him.
It's more for our listeners.
Hey, Stanley, me and you, we cannot portfolio allocate, we cannot do
diversify.
Unless you
I would say marriage and portfolio, maybe one side of it is quite similar, which is if you have a concentrated portfolio, it's quite similar to having a marriage. You either make it or you don't make it. But on the other side, if you have a diversified portfolio, to me it's better. But if you have a diversified marriage, most likely you'll die 1,000 deaths.
Before we begin the podcast, have you gotten your free ebook? It's called the Build a Six-Figure Portfolio Guidebook. Now, inside it, we share with you the tips and tricks to bring your stock investing skills to the next level. The best part, it's only 10 pages long and it's totally free. Whether you're on Spotify or YouTube, the link to download is in the description, or you can go to www.firl.co/FREE or www.firl.co/free. Hello everyone, welcome back to the FIRL podcast, best place for long-term stock investors. Today, we don't just have a special guest, but an old friend.
Yep.
We are actually in the same industry, him a lot longer than us.
Yeah.
And he's a veteran, basically. Right?
In Malay, we call otai.
Otai, yeah. He's a veteran. Yeah, definitely, from the good old days, right?
Yeah.
But still very, very, in fact, you can argue more vibrant today in the YouTube scene, especially. So just to give you a background about our guest, he used to be a writer at Motley Fool, right? For those of you who don't know, maybe John, you want to explain what is Motley Fool to you?
Yeah, Motley Fool kind of like opened my eyes to the US market because of the subscription service. And they were very good at running marketing campaigns. So I was hooked.
Yeah, it's
a newsletter subscription.
Yeah, I think it's one of the best like a learning sort of repository for retail investors.
Correct.
That would be how I'll describe Motley Fool. It's a global company. Now, he's currently the founder of Value Invest Asia. He also manages the day-to-day operations. There's a lot of really good quality articles on the website. Do go check it out whenever you're free. He also has a YouTube channel. It used to be called Value Invest Asia. Now it's called Invest with Stanley, with over 24K subs. And if you're a member of his of Value Invest Asia, you actually get to see his real legit 7-digit portfolio. And he's also, just as a side note, the director of PESTECH International, which is a Malaysian listed company. Welcome to the podcast, Mr. Stanley Lim.
Hello, thank you, MJ, for that very, very extensive introduction. And hello, John, how are you?
Fine, thank you. Even with that extensive, we also forgot to... Stanley, can you point to your book? It's on your top... Wait,
he's
left
also
or
an
right?
author.
Mirror image.
Yeah, yeah. He's also an author. I highly recommend the book. It's called Value Invest in Asia. Now, I think Stanley has copies that he personally signed. Obviously, there is a premium to the signature, and I think it's well worth the premium.
So I think we can start there, right, Stanley, which is... why did you write a book? And I think what's interesting about the title of your book, which is value investing in Asia is that it seems to have a more Asian focus.
Yes.
But given the thousands of tens of thousands of books out there on Value Invest Asia, why do you decide to give it a go?
Right. So of course, I have to say this book is not written by me alone. It's co-written with my good friend and co-founder, Chong Man Hong as well. We basically, I think we spent the memory is a little bit fuzzy now. I think we spent close to 2 years in writing this book.
Wow.
And we write through, I think, 5 to 6 drafts of it, rewritten over and over again. so why we have this? Why we decide to embark in such a foolish endeavor is because at the beginning when we were investing, I started out investing quite a while ago. That's why you call me a veteran. But what I found is even I would bunker myself in the library and read out all the investment books I can find. Most of them still revolve around, if you're value investors, it revolve around number one, Warren Buffett, and it revolve around US stocks. And it's very, very hard to find a book that at least I feel is of a certain quality that dive deep into understanding the Asian stock market. And for us, I started out investing in the Malaysian market and then later moved on to the Singapore market and Hong Kong market. But what I found is there's still a lot of value and good companies to be offered in Asia. But the main problem is just the exposure and the coverage of them is much weaker compared to the US stocks. So that's our main idea behind it, and we want to create at least I would say a more interesting sort of textbook for people who is interested to invest in Asia, and sort of introduce that not just for Asian investors, or maybe Western investors who are interested to tag on to the growth of Asia, and explain a little bit to them what is the nuances that you have to look out for when you're investing in Asia. And especially later on, in the book, in the later chapter, we also interview many great investors in Asia and look at their investment style and also some of their track records and some of the companies that we all look at.
So before I ask you about the nuances, because I think that's pretty interesting, I think all of us want to know, who have never written a book before, right? Can make money when you write a book.
Short answer is no. So if you're thinking of writing a book and become a millionaire, I would discourage you from it. But the whole publishing process, what I found out is the publishing process is actually quite interesting. And the publishing hub of the world, at least for English language books, is still centered around London and New York.
Okay.
So that's why I feel unless you are like really from there, or you're stationed there and you are published by the office in London and New York, it's actually quite hard to create like a viral book lah.
I see.
If you're outside of those hub.
I see.
That's at least from our personal experience a few years back. I don't know if it changes now. I think it should be better now because from online publishing, many are doing it directly through Amazon or what. It really opens up the field, I would say.
I see.
For more books to reach wider audience.
I see. But your publisher was actually quite famous also. It's because Wiley, right? Wiley is very famous for, I think, textbooks or even great works as well, right? Was it difficult in a way to get them to convince them to publish your book?
So we pitched to quite a number of publishers, but luckily Wiley agrees to take us up. But I would say, the whole process was okay, but I would say the support wasn't that extensive. If I would say compared to if we are published under the London office, we are published under the Singapore office. So
I see.
I would say at least I feel the support level could be better.
Understand.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, I mentioned about nuance later, but I want to pair it with our discussion about China later, which I think is a very big aspect of the content you create and even your own investment strategy, right?
Yeah.
But I just want to dial back right? Dial back to the first day you got into contact with investing, and how did you discover it? Why did you start investing?
Okay, so if memory serves me right, that happens about, I think, close to 15 years ago. I just graduated, and I realized that, my first job was, I was working in Malaysia at the time, but I realized that to reach financial freedom from just working might be quite a hard thing to do, right? At the time, that's what I thought. So I wanted to accelerate that a little bit, and I was lucky enough that at the beginning, when I first came out, I don't have much. I don't have a student loan. I was lucky enough that my parents supported me through my education, and I gotten a small sum from them to kickstart my career, at least. And so I have a small basket of funds, and that's how I decided that, instead of maybe buying the new car, I should learn about investing from that. So I dive into investing. I guess because of my temperament, which is more laid back and slow, so value investing kind of appeal to me more than, say, a trading a stock or whatever. So I end up learning more about that and getting fascinated. I think, like most people, fascinated about Buffett and learning everything from him. Every kind of writing that I can find, read all the books about him. That's how I started, and started dabbling into the Malaysian market during that time. Of course, but the first 2 years, I would say, is an educational ride until the financial crisis.
I see.
Okay, what is that ride? You gotta tell us, man. You can't just tell us there's a ride, but then just leave it there.
The baptism of fire.
So basically, I would say the first 2 years, because that was 2005, 2006, all the way to the financial crisis. It was a bull market. So almost everything I buy was going up. So at that time, if you're just starting out and everything that you buy was going up, then you might gain some certain of confidence, right? And it might reach a point of sometimes arrogance as well. So that, of course, so the first 2 years, I would say, I started thinking that, investing is not that hard, and I kind of get the hang of it. No problem. Only until the financial crisis, when I heard, Lehman Brothers collapse. I don't even know who is Lehman Brothers. And after learning from that experience, that my portfolio, I think, dropped 60 plus percent during that time, and I refused to sell. Mainly because I was still tied down to the idea that, when it goes down, we have to buy more and buy more. So I was actually buying more and more and more until the point where I have no more money, but it's still going down. And it really brought back the humility in my investing journey, and learned about things like, sometimes the market is acting against rational, and you just have to ride it out, and just because the stock go up doesn't necessarily mean that you are right. Sometimes you're just lucky, and a lot of times when I retrospectively look back into my investment, a lot of them are, I was just lucky at the beginning.
I see. Right. And your exposure at that point was mainly because your office is based out of Singapore. But at that point, was your portfolio concentration mainly within Singapore or outside the region?
During the financial crisis, I was still working in Malaysia. I think I only went to Singapore to work I can't remember, 2013 or 14.
I see.
So yeah, so at that time I was just investing in the Malaysian market. So yeah, in some of the stocks that I bought, I would say these are stocks that I wouldn't dare to touch at the moment.
And you wouldn't dare to name on this podcast also, right?
Some of them still listed, so let's just leave it at that.
Yeah. Okay, so, I think what I drew from what you said was basically just because the stock goes up doesn't mean you're right. And also just because it goes down, sometimes, you might be wrong in the short run and you have to ride it out, right? So what are the like key lessons, you know, now with the benefit of, you know, 10-year-old or more hindsight, right? What do you think are some of the biggest lessons that you learned from that experience? And then how did you kind of get out of that pit, right? Because you just told us you dropped 60% your portfolio, obviously, or at least I hope today that is still not the case, right? So how did you bounce back?
Yep. So I would say there's a few key lessons that I learned. Of course, not directly after the crisis, then I suddenly become enlightened.
Of course.
It took a few years after that also as the market recovers, and then I've sort of experiment with different style and find the style that kind of works for me. But what I found is that the first thing that we have to do is actually just be more humble, even to ourselves. Even to ourselves, right? Every time when we buy a stock, regardless of how well we analyze the stock, there is a certain amount of uncertainty to it. And that is why we have to diversify a portfolio, right? If I found the stocks that I'm so optimistic about and I feel so convicted that it is going to be a great, then, you know, to me, I just buy one stock, that's enough. But I don't do that because I know that if I do that, it's almost like just, you know, taking a bet, whether it hits or not, right? I could be lucky and, you know, invest 100% in Tesla, but I could also be unlucky and invest 100% in a company that's no longer around. So that's the first thing that I learned, just to understand that there are some things just outside of control of your analysis, and there's even outside the control of, say, the CEO or the management running the business. There's just inherent risk with businesses. And so it's important for us to diversify. And every time when you start to feel that you're getting cocky a little bit, I think you should slow yourself down. You should slow yourself down. And also, second thing that I realized is on the temperament and the emotion that you experience during a crisis and during the stock market. So we always feel, you know, when we learn about investing, we learn the mantra like, oh, be greedy when others are fearful, be fearful when others are greedy. And we assume that we can be the one that control our own emotion, while others are, you know, they are mere mortals that they will follow the crowd. But the truth is, we are part of the crowd as well. So when the market is fearful, most likely I will be fearful as well. And, you know, the same is true for the other side if market is booming. So I would say, try to don't think too highly of ourselves and always be honest to your own feelings. Like, if you feel that you are getting panicky, it's a good sign that other people are panicky as well. And maybe you can train yourself to act differently. But you know, the best thing is, if you don't have the courage to really act when you're in a total panic, just learn how to not panic sell. At least, and that's good enough. I think that's good enough, because over the long term, if you pick the right high quality companies, they will still come out on top. Right? Even if you don't buy at the bottom.
So one thing I find interesting about what you just said was about having self-knowledge about your emotions, and how, you know, you can say, I'm very good, I read all the books, but then when the time comes, you act very differently. You act like the sheeps, right, that you were so against a few months ago. But my question is, what are some of the tips you have to manage the emotions exactly? So from what I hear, one of them is to stay diversified, right, so that you can manage volatility. What are some of the other tips and tricks that you have?
Okay, so this sort of evolved over time. What I found is, at the beginning, I was a very kind of deep value investor. So I focus a lot on the valuation of a stock. And I always, when the first thing that I found a stock, I will look at, oh, is this stock cheap? And then I buy it. And
low
then I monitor
PE
it. Yeah, low PE, monitor it. I have to keep monitoring it at the point, and then you sell, and then you do that back again. And that hasn't worked out that great for me, because number one, I end up having to constantly monitor my portfolio. And when I keep looking at the portfolio, then I'll be affected whenever the market has a sudden swing.
Understand.
So being myself, I know that I might face this kind of fear in the market. Over time, what I do is I just focus on stocks that are, number one, very simple to understand and has a very long runway that I feel will continue to grow and grow and grow and grow. So a simple example would be a company like maybe Apple, right? So it's such a huge company, but at the end of the day, their business model is very simple. They are a tech hardware and software company, and they focus on very high quality and almost like a luxury brand of electronics, right? So if we still believe that electronics will actually become more and more encircled into our life, then the future is still far from over, right? Yeah, now they're talking about going to Apple Car, because car, if it's using battery, then sort of car is sort of an electronic as well, right?
Even they came out with the tag right now they have the Apple tag.
That's pretty smart. So you see, those are the things that I tend to look at. So if today, okay, disclosure, I do own Apple, but
same.
So if I look at
also.
if I look at it, okay, so I believe in this long-term trend of electronics going to be more and more encircled into our life, and I believe that Apple will be one of the key company in it. Then all I do is I buy this company one time, and as long as that thesis hold true that electronics is still going to be key in the future, then I don't really focus and monitor on it. And today, if you ask me what is Apple's share price, I don't really know. Even I have been holding it for over the past 5 years, but I don't really look at it day to day. And that's sort of true for all my my whole portfolio, where I just select this kind of stocks that I buy one time. And I would say, if not for my work, I might check my portfolio maybe once a year.
Wow. Wow.
Hear that, guys? Once a year.
Because we teach like our students, right, to check maximum 4 times a month.
Yeah.
And here we are 1 times.
Have to, this one is monk level, 和尚.
Yeah. You know one thing that struck me very interesting about your style, right? Actually, when I first encountered it, and we'll talk about how you diversify later on, but what I found interesting, right, when I look at what you do, actually, you are almost like a business collector.
Okay.
What you do is like, let's say you have like trading cards or
Stamps.
Yeah, stamps. All these things that you can just kind of buy it. And you're right? Like if I buy a Pokemon card, let's say, I don't look at it right, every day or every week, right? I just buy it, put it, store it nicely, keep it nice, don't even look at it.
Yeah.
And then 5 years later, I can sell it for higher.
Yeah. That's how you view, how I view his, right? I thought he was running a Stanley ETF.
Yeah.
That's how, because, and we'll talk about his portfolio later, diversification, but that your impression was mini business collector. For me, I looked at it, right? Man, I think Stanley should just charge an index fee,
Yeah, man.
follow Stanley's portfolio, and then there's a fee for following this index, ETF. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt this podcast. I know it's a little bit annoying, but I want to tell you something that I think can be really helpful to you. I can tell you're really interested in the stock market and want to learn more about it so that you actually know what you're doing, especially when today things are getting more complex and complicated. That's why we came up with the Stock Investing Blueprint, or SIB. It's our signature e-learning program that teaches you how to pick the right stocks most of the time, buy and sell it at the best possible time, and manage your stock portfolio systematically. It currently has more than 10 hours of content, and it's growing. You'll also be part of a group of like-minded investors that can help speed up your learning process. To hop on the program, click on the link in the description or go to learn.firl.co/courses/SIB. Now, building onto that, right, I think what I find very interesting also is that it's such a low effort strategy.
Yeah.
And I think that is very attractive to people, right?
Correct.
So the next question is, okay, given that your effort is low strategy, given that your effort is ETF-like, Okay, what are your target returns? Like, what do you think, in your view, is a good return to get from the stock market doing what you do? And also, if you wouldn't mind, just share with us what have you achieved based on what you've done over the years.
Yeah, sure. I would say at this point of time, I don't really have a fixed target return anymore for my portfolio. Why I still continue to have a portfolio and keep it in stocks is just as a protection against inflation, right? At the end of the day, I do feel that owning asset is much better than owning cash. And I rather just own stocks with my wealth. And how I come to that conclusion is basically I spend quite a long period of time staring at the Forbes billionaire list, right? And I scroll through, right, every one of them. I look at it, how they grow their wealth.
Yeah.
And if you just take out the extremely brilliant people who created businesses or whatever, that like the mind-blowing businesses,
Amazon,
like your Amazons and your Bill Gates, the most of them actually build their wealth by the stocks in their company.
Yep.
So they might no longer be active in the company, but they still own a majority or a big stake in the company, these great companies. And to me, that's why I realized that if all these, the top 1% are the people, they are storing their wealth in stocks, then maybe I should follow them. So MJ was talking about the collector mindset. I think that's exactly true. That's how I think of it. And I also think of my stocks. My portfolio is basically my tabong, right? The place that I store my wealth rather than keeping it in a fixed D in the bank. And that's actually makes me feel safer, although it fluctuates day in and day out, but that doesn't matter to me. So I would say that's how I come to think of stocks.
That's very different from, I think, the general public, right?
Yeah.
Which is that, if you're going to treat it as something to hedge against inflation, or to use your own word, menabung, which for those of you who don't understand Malay, it's a piggy bank,
Yeah,
right?
it's a piggy bank.
Deposit. Yeah, it's like a savings,
Yeah.
right? You see, like, you save money in Apple shares,
Yeah.
rather than cash. But then some people will say that, what happens if there's a market crash? What happens if your portfolio declines, 30, 40%? Even, large cap, super stable, safe stocks also can fall by that amount, right? In Malaysia, I think Nestle, which, is blue chip, number one blue chip in Malaysia, dropped, like, I think 40% in 2008. What do you say to those people, right, who say that it's not as safe as cash?
Right. I would say that if you really need the cash, I'm hoping that you have your financial plan, that if you're gonna spend something huge, then you already know that I'm gonna need the money to spend it on something huge.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, then you shouldn't invest in the stocks. You should have it, store in a stable currency, and be prepared to use that. Be it you want to buy your Ferrari or whatever, doesn't matter. It's your money, right? You can choose what you want to do with it. But if you're just having some excess wealth that you have no immediate need for, it can be 5 years down the road, maybe for your retirement, 10 years down the road for your retirement, or for your kids' education. You still have a long runway. Then I don't see why you cannot hold it in stocks. Even if today the market crashes, then I know from past crisis, typically it takes 3 to maximum maybe 5 years. It will recover back to the previous peak, right? From the past 100 years history. So if that's the case, all I need is to be patient for 3 to 5 years. Then if I don't need the money for the next 3 to 5 years, then it would warrant that keeping your cash in your wealth in stocks is still much safer, because I know for sure 5 years down the road, if you keep it in cash, it will be worth less.
Yeah.
It's I can 100% sure that it's gonna be worth less.
Yeah.
Right?
Have you
Well,
have you studied other asset classes? I mean, you said that you look at the Forbes. This is actually one of my hobbies as well to look at this. But have you actually considered other asset classes before you had this love for stocks? Or was it just like you saw it, you fell in love with it, and then you looked at compared temporarily to other asset classes and you said it's much more superior? What was there a journey for you before you selected this particular asset class?
Yeah, why stocks?
Yeah, why stocks?
Yeah. Sorry, can we repeat that question again because you got cut off?
Okay, yeah. So before you chose stocks as your main asset class, did you consider other asset classes, and what did you find, and why did you choose stocks?
Okay. When I first started, I would say the range of asset for a newcomer investor wasn't that much. There's no Bitcoin then, right? And basically, I'm just choosing between property or stocks. And I would say I tried investing in property as well, right? But number one, of course, it has to be much bigger sum, the initial outlay.
Okay.
So I have to maybe partner with my wife to go in a property. Where stocks, I can start with just a few $1,000s on my own. And what I found over the few years that I've been investing in property is property takes up a lot of work. It's a lot of work to do, right? Just to manage the agents and all the fees associated with it, like the municipal fees, the agency fees, and every time there's a repair, every time a tenant move out, there's sure something I need to repair. So even though I'm collecting 12-month rent, at the end of the day, I would say 2 or 3 months is down the drain to give to all the fees and all the repairs that I have to do. And at the end of the day, I just feel at the end of the day, I'm a very lazy person. So I just feel stocks
Just
are
buy
just
Apple
so much
shares,
easier. Yeah, so much easier. And if I really, really make a wrong choice, I just sell the shares, okay?
Yeah.
Kick myself in the butt and I try again. But if I buy a wrong property, I could be stuck with it for a long, long time.
Oh
right?
yeah. So true.
Yeah, man.
You sound like you're speaking from experience.
Oh yeah. Hey Stanley, did I share with you the story? But never mind, we can chat offline. But I went through the same thing. My last property that I sold was actually in Pulai. It's in your backyard. And I sold it for a loss. I sold it for a loss of, bought it for $550.
Property can lose money, right?
That was
I thought it only goes up. Huh? What?
Wow.
Yeah.
John must have a special touch.
Yeah. He's rubbing salt on my wound, like he knows it. So
No, this is for the listeners.
Yeah.
So I think I've actually never heard this part of your story before, and I think I want to drive a little bit deeper on the finance portion, because I think many people, when they start investing, they use it to try and solve their financial problems.
yeah.
When I think, investors such as yourself who are accomplished, right? You actually need to get your finances in order first, then only you start investing. So I actually have two questions related to very practical questions related to personal finance. The first one is, you say that you need your house in order first, right, before you begin. And of course, each people have their own preferences. Like you said, some people want Ferraris, some people don't. So in your case specifically, right, what was the conditions that you felt was sufficient, that existed first, then only you say, okay, then I can, buy a stock and hold it for a very long time, and I don't really care about the volatility. So that's my first question. I'll ask the second one later.
Okay. Yeah. At least from my experience, I do feel that it is much safer financially to make sure you have roughly enough for yourself first, and then you invest in the excess. But I understand that it might not be possible for everyone, right? I was very lucky, maybe just from my family background, that I come from quite an okay family, and I don't have to worried that I have to take care of my parents, or I have to give them monthly allowance, or I have to pay back student loans, right? So I have a great starting point, and I realized that I was lucky, and not everyone is at the same stage. So I met some friends who they can take a lot of risks and they got lucky, right? To them, maybe they feel that since I come from nothing and I can take this massive risk and buy this property that I totally cannot afford, but if I turn out, then I become a millionaire. But if I don't make it, then I'm still back to where I am with nothing.
Right. Go big or go home.
Yeah, some people, I wouldn't say. I would say you have to decide, what kind of lifestyle you want. For me, maybe I just prefer to be more conservative, and I have the condition to be more conservative. So why not, right? I have the luxury to choose that I can be more conservative, and that's the route I end up choosing, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, my second question, do you have a question?
Yeah.
So my second question is actually relating, and I remember this, you said it either in your videos or you said it in private to me. Do let me know if I got it wrong. But as I mentioned earlier on, you actually share a 7-digit portfolio to a lot of your clients, right? And what I remember is that you were saying that this was something actually that you and your wife built together and built up. Almost like I still remember the scene from Bugs Life. I don't know if you watched. Everyone started contributing to the ants started contributing the rice.
It's like the gotong royong pool.
Yeah. So I think that's very interesting because one, I think it's rare, but I could be wrong. You guys can correct me if that's a wrong assumption of mine. But I think that's rare. And what do you actually think about husband, wife, or maybe back then girlfriend, boyfriend team up to invest and things like that?
Okay.
She's not in the room, right?
No, she's not in the room. I would say, actually, it worked out very well for me. And at that time, before we got married, my wife was actually earning much more than me. And if she continue working, I think she's definitely earning much more than me. And I was lucky in a sense because when we combine our portfolio, she actually is the majority contributor to that portfolio.
Can she veto you?
She put full matching for this EPF.
Got preference share. Her voting rights are higher than Stanley.
Higher voting rights, I assume.
I would say it worked out pretty well for her also. No, but I would say because I actually become more serious of an investor after I got married, and I would say later on with children, and I see that with some of my friends as well. It's great that you learn about investing at the early stage, but I would say really when your commitments start kicking in and you feel that you need to provide for something in the future, then you'll be more disciplined in creating that nest egg for the future, right? If until today I'm still single, I would say my portfolio wouldn't have grown so much, because if another car come along, then I might be impulsed to spend it on that car,
or another scooter, right?
Yeah, bike.
And then everything will stop compounding. So my advice for at least the guys out there, the number one way to grow your wealth is to get married.
Oh man, wow. MJ,
that's interesting.
Yep.
You see, that's interesting, right? Because everyone sees marriage as a wealth black hole.
Yeah.
Right, because then children's coming, I have to buy a house, and all this. But you seem to be saying the opposite, which is not a black hole, it is more like a fountain.
Yeah, I do think so. And I guess life in a way is just how you see it, right? And if you see the positive side of things, and I read I guess it's a meme in the past. Basically, there's a picture of two fathers, right? And one father is basically complaining to the kids and saying, I'm poor because of you guys. I have to provide for you guys. Whereas the other father is very happy and tell that to your kids that I'm rich today, I'm wealthy today because of you guys, because I need to work hard to provide for you guys. So it's just your mentality in life and also in investing. And and when I got married, that's sort of switch on for me lah. Like basically, this should be something I take more serious thought about.
Yeah.
And I know I was never gonna be a incredible business person, and I don't think I have the sort of the drive for it. And investing is sort of the only way for me to be serious in growing my wealth. So that's the path I took.
Now that you mentioned that we're talking about this, now I know why Warren Buffett got married at 19. Finally, I know. That's one secret people don't talk about, right? People talk about, oh, he's very smart. He
invested at 11.
Yeah, invested at 11. No, he got married at 19. That's the key.
That's the real secret.
That's the key.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
Now I do have a follow-up question on that, which is related to actually pairing up as a couple, right? Because money often, I think like 50% of breakups or even divorces are caused by money.
Yeah.
And it seems to me right now, you guys are using money more as a binding agent, essentially. Now you are actually, I would assume that the relationship has improved because of this pot. Obviously, it's 7-digit, right? So my question is, how do you split the responsibilities? How do you build that trust among both of you that you can manage such a size of money and grow it consistently and not have much problems?
You haven't seen his video, man, where the wife challenged him. He says can invest better.
Oh wait, yeah. Tell me about it.
Obviously, he hasn't watched that. Stanley.
No, I know that there's a wife portfolio review. I know about that video.
You can check it out.
Yeah, it was great. It was pretty hilarious. The wife is saying, so it's not that difficult. It should be easy.
Yeah. On a reference to that video, my wife started to kickstart a small portfolio of hers last year because of the market boom, and she wanted to try it out as well. So it's still doing okay. But I would say, before you really think about combining a portfolio, make sure you're choosing make sure you are very sure that your spouse is the one that you are gonna spend your life with, and try to have someone that at least financially have the same alignment with you. I would say because both of us don't really spend a lot on ultra luxury things, or feel the need that we have to spend a lot on things, right, material things, and so that's fine. And my wife is an accountant, and she accountants are very, very calculative, so she knows the value of money. And it comes to we have a understanding right? That money should actually be safe and invested rather than just keep in the bank or just spend it. So I would say make sure you have the right spouse first, before you combine your portfolio.
I'm gonna ask a question.
This question I think MJ also knows this rule. I don't know whether the rule applies or not. In a marriage, right, they said for the woman, right, her money is her money.
Yeah.
And then her husband's money. I better let you finish your drink first before you split out, okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, her money is her money. Her husband's money is also her money. Does that rule apply or not? I'm just kidding. If it doesn't apply, just say it.
I don't know. We never really have that discussion yet. But I would say, hopefully we come to a consensus agreement if you're buying something big. So far, we don't buy anything super big. So, she don't have to ask for permission when she spends something. I don't have to ask for her permission when I spend something.
Yeah. Hey, but you saying this, Stanley, I remember you were telling me about you got a phone for your wife, and it was an Android phone. I still remember this story, and then she said it was clunky and it wasn't working well. And then all of a sudden, you decided to buy an iPhone for your wife. And then you got a pack on the cheek for it because you bought an iPhone. I don't know whether MJ knows this story or not.
Yeah, so that's the story of why I ended up investing in Apple. Because I have been Android and a PC user all my life. I tried an iPhone before, I think way in iPhone 2 or iPhone
Wow.
3 or something.
It's 10 years ago.
Yeah, but I just hated it. As a user, I hated it. I don't like the Apple ecosystem, so I have been using Android for a long time. And the story is I bought my wife a Xiaomi phone because Xiaomi just is a new up and coming company, and I find it interesting. I bought one for her, but she hated it, and she is a brand she never heard before also.
Okay.
Right, so it's sort of maybe to her it's like buying a pasar malam brand for her because she never heard of that brand at the time. So I realized my mistake. So for the next year birthday, I bought an iPhone for her, and the reaction is totally different. And that's when I realized that iPhone is actually more than just the electronic. It is the gift. It is the electronic gift that you want to be giving to someone else as a present, right? And so it is more of almost like a branded stuff rather than just a pure electronics. So every time someone want to argue that Android is better because they are more powerful or more user, I think they are missing the point.
Yes.
It's like the Hermes of phones. It's like the Hermes or the Louis Vuitton of phones. If you give a Louis Vuitton bag versus, let's say, a Braun Buffel, which is quality is almost as good, but if you give a LV versus it's totally different. Yeah.
Okay, I promise this is going to be the last questions about money and relationship, right? But one big
turning into a marriage podcast.
But I ask this I think this is something that a lot of viewers who are budding value investors need to know. One of the biggest difference, and there are a lot of similarities, but one of the biggest difference between a marriage and stock investing, and I hope this is something you agree with, is that you cannot diversify, right? So as you rightly pointed out, who you choose, right, is very, very crucial. And in stocks we have criteria like you have yours, where you make sure that there's a long runway and things like that. And how should people who want to create wealth in stocks through especially the value investing method, what are some of the, for lack of a better word, criteria that you need to have in your experience when you choose a spouse?
When I choose a spouse.
Because it's going to be very important.
Oh,
right?
wow, MJ.
Yes.
This is becoming more of a
Last
personal question for yourself.
It's more for him.
It's more for our listeners.
Hey, Stanley, me and you, we cannot portfolio allocate. We cannot do
cannot diversify.
Unless you
I would say marriage and portfolio, maybe one side of it is quite similar, which is if you have a concentrated portfolio, it's quite similar to having a marriage. You either make it or you don't make it. But on the other side, if you have a diversified portfolio, to me it's better. But if you have a diversified marriage, most likely you'll die 1,000 deaths. When choosing a spouse, I don't know. I just chose the first girl that said yes to me.
All right, there you have it. That is the key criteria that works. Probably won't work for stocks. Definitely, a relationship is possible. So now let's go to diversification, right? And one thing you kind of differ a lot from a lot of value investors is concentration.
Yeah.
So to give our listeners a sense, and if you listen to our previous podcasts with different guests, they have their thoughts on diversification as well.
We're very quite good.
Yeah, it's very diverse.
Yeah, very diverse.
A very diverse set of views about diversification.
Yes.
And a lot of people say that to really do well, you need to concentrate. I think Buffett says it quite a lot. And by concentrate, right, let's call it no more than 10 or 15 securities or stocks, right?
Yeah.
I know in your case that you like to hit that 25, 30, sometimes maybe even 35 stock kind of portfolio, which on average means you have 2 to 3% in a single stock.
Yeah.
Right? And so what do you think about diversification basically from your point of view?
Okay, when I think about diversification, I take into consideration one more aspect where I think maybe some investors don't take into consideration, which is the time needed for me to either research the stocks and also to monitor my portfolio. The time span. on the return on effort. And from researching stocks, I realized that in the past, how I research is I really deep dive very, very deep into a company. I could spend months on a company, and I could, dive down into learning about that company, family members. I Google all their family members, find out who they are, what any news about them, any negative news about them. And I might even do search on some of their subsidiaries, their accounts on group. Then I might even go and buy the private records on some of the subsidiaries, whether it's really making money or not, to that extent. And I always will reach out to the management, either to talk to them or just to have people inside to understand more about the business. But what I found out is a lot of time, this also kind of, the 80-20 rule kind of apply. So I can do 80% of the research or 100% of the effort putting in. But actually the first 20% that I did sort of already solidify my thesis, right? And the rest, although I do 80% more, it doesn't really help me increase my earnings by the additional 80%. So I ended up just feel that I don't need to spend so much time in researching on each company. The most is I just understand the top 20%, what is most critical about it, and then I diversify my portfolio. So I have a lot of company, yes. I might not know every nuances about them, but I know the basic fundamentals of why I invest in them and where are they heading. And because of that, I am quite comfortable in, I don't have to monitor them too much, because I look at the long-term view. As long as they're moving towards the right direction and the world is moving towards that direction, then I have nothing much to worry about. And, I spend the rest of my time doing other things.
Understand. And that is it fair for me to say that prior to moving into this style of investing, when you were doing those deep dives, 80% of the work, was it a more concentrated portfolio back then as well? Then only you switched into a more diversified portfolio, or that approach has always been the same all this while?
Yes, when I was doing more deep dive, I have a much concentrated portfolio. I would say, and maybe not super concentrated, but I would say less than 10.
Okay.
It just is a function of the time that I have, because everyone has 24 hours, right? If I'm spending so much time on one company, it's impossible for me to research like 40 companies.
I see.
In detail. So it's just a function of time, and I only be able to maintain and monitor 10 companies. But I would spend more time monitoring that 10 company compared to now, monitoring the 40 companies. And many people would say, okay, you mentioned the Buffett reference.
Yeah.
Yes, Buffett at the beginning once said that, you should be more concentrated. Charlie Munger also said, that diversification is
for idiots,
for idiots, right? But if you look at Buffett, Berkshire is a very, very diversified company.
Agree.
Yep.
And, he owned more than 200 plus businesses. And the majority of the Berkshire wealth comes from, the last decade.
Yeah.
So you would have to argue whether diversification create more wealth or concentration create more wealth.
That's a very interesting point.
Yeah. I have one follow-up with regards to this, and I try to put on the devil advocates kind of hat, Stanley. If you're doing this strategy, in which is a very diversified portfolio, and in a way, which we will talk about later in more detail about the stocks and the kind, I know you're big in China and in US and Hong Kong. Why not buy an ETF? Why? I know you're a fan of ETF, but now you are individually picking stocks, putting into a quite diversified portfolio. What would be the argument that you would say for someone who says, why even put in the effort? I just go for an ETF. What are your thoughts on that?
Yep. That's a very good alternative, I would say. If today, when I was investing, ETF wasn't that big. Okay, so I ended up creating sort of, like you said, my own ETF. But if you say, if I'm starting again today, I would say ETF is is a very attractive option for me and my style of investing. Why I still end up not investing in ETF is because I enjoy the process of investing, and also I when I look at ETF, sometimes I feel that I might not be that interested in some companies, right? And many ETF actually have more than 30 companies. They have close to 100. Sometimes some ETF they have 300 companies, and I might not like all of them.
Understand.
So I rather pick and choose of what company that I prefer.
I see.
And because I invest through, say, I invest in mainly 4 markets, right? The Malaysia, Singapore, Hong Kong, and US. It's hard to find an ETF that actually just invests in all these markets, or even just Hong Kong and US. You don't really find a good
mix lah, in a way.
Companies that maybe 50% US, 50% Hong Kong or Greater China.
Right.
Most ETF are, at the end of the day, still more geared towards the US market. The bigger ones, at least.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. In a way, if you buy an ETF, the index is already determined for you. In a way, S&P 500. You can't have an S&P 500 mixed with the Hang Seng index or mixed with China index. Okay.
Yeah. Cool. Interesting. So I think related to the way you diversify. So we talk about how many stocks you will own. Now let's talk a little bit about the way you will diversify. And I remember you saying once that, and tell me if it's still the case, that you like to populate your portfolio with like 70% large cap sort of stable companies. I believe the word you used when I heard this was income generating. And then the remaining 30% are more riskier types, maybe the business model not as proven. And so my question is, relating to like large caps, right? Usually people say that if it's already a large cap, how much more can it grow, right? Whereas like the potential has already been achieved, right? That's why they are dividend paying and income generating. So what are your thoughts about how you actually split that pie up into these sections?
Okay, I would say I wouldn't split it necessarily in terms of, say, income or growth. How I see it is I try to look at companies that have a unique business model that maybe is really one of a kind. Sometimes it could be big, sometimes it could be small. Maybe I give an example that, I could argue that a company like Microsoft is very big, but it has a very unique business model that almost every company, every businesses would somehow touches on Microsoft software. And so in a way, it is a key enabler for the economy, right? And that's not going away anytime soon. On the other side, I could say that a company like maybe now up and coming, like Shopee, right? C Group. It also has it is still not a very, very established company, but I would say it's still a very interesting company where it has a dominant position in a field that is fast growing as a sector. So I would say both are companies that I might consider and have it in my portfolio, but I don't see it in a way that is either income or growth, but rather the business model, whether I feel that there is a big advantage of its business model outside of other companies. And it links back to the question of ETF actually. Why I don't choose ETF, right? I don't choose ETF, but I set ETF returns or the mix as my benchmark. So I always look at the company and I say, would I rather own this company, or is it unique enough for me to warrant to just buy this company instead of just buy an ETF?
Understand.
Right. So if it's not super unique, then I rather just choose the ETF.
Understand.
Yeah. And on the point where you say size is different, right?
Large cap and all that,
size cap, you can't really grow. I think it might be true for smaller markets like Malaysia or in Singapore, but if you look out to Greater China or US, I haven't find that to be the case. Case in point, say Apple again, right? I've been hearing Apple is too big since it's at 400 billion market cap.
Yeah.
Then it become 1 billion. Then people say
1 trillion.
wow, already 1 trillion.
Yeah.
1 trillion. People say, oh, it's already 1 trillion. How big can it get? 2 trillion.
Yeah.
Then now it's at 2 trillion. Then people will say, how big can it get? Really?
Yeah.
Already 2 trillion. Yeah. But the fact is the entire market is global, right? Apple is one of the few companies that even has a big market share in China.
Correct.
Right? Not many Western companies can say that they are big both in the Western world and also in China, right? Apple is just one of the very, very few. And plus, money is always depreciating. So 1 trillion today might sound like a lot, but 1 trillion 10 years down the road might not be that big.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. Okay. You have a question?
Yeah. Actually, moving on to the nuances, and I want to actually dive deeper into the differences, because you mentioned earlier in your library, what do you call it, episodes or journey, and you couldn't find books that were related very much to the nuances of investing in Asia. And I'd like to hear your thoughts. And following on to that, there's this book by Chris Meyer called 100 to 1. The bag,
100 to 1, okay.
Yeah, 100 to 1. And he listed a few criteria with regards to owner-run companies, as well as versus that of hired guns and all that. Where do you think that blend? Because in Asia, you find a lot of owner-run companies, first-generation families, and then moving on. And then you see in the US where there's more institutionalization to the business. Was that some of the nuances you saw, and what other nuances you found?
Yeah. In terms of investing in Asia company, that's one of the things that I think we have to take note of, which is in the US, they always prefer to have owner-run companies, and they feel that owner-run company would be much better. The owner will take more ownership to it. I haven't really found that to be the case for Asia. Some of the reasons I speculate might be because at this point of time, I think many Asian management or founder-led companies might not have the philosophy that thinking that we have to treat shareholders as an equal partner, right? Sometimes they would still hang on to the idea that this company is mine. I created this company. Why shouldn't I just make all the shots,
Yeah.
Why do I have to think about the minority shareholders even when they own 100 shares? That is... My son is here.
Hello.
Yeah. Hi, Stanley Jr. I like your teeth.
Must be 7, right?
Yeah. Anyway, I lost my train. Okay. So that's one key point where I feel it's not so important. Right. I'm not saying that all owner-led companies are bad, but some out there just don't have the right philosophy when it comes to managing minority shareholders. And number two is, I think, because of the dual class share structure.
I see.
In the US, they can, the founders they can keep growing the company by raising more capital, but still remain control of the business by having a dual class shares.
Yes.
Right? So they don't mind diluting their shares to 2%, 3% while they're still in control.
Yeah.
Whereas in Asia, apart from Hong Kong, right, or maybe China, the rest of the region, we don't have that kind of dual class structure anymore. Anyway, so to a founding family, to a founding management, they still want to hang on to that majority stake in the company, and that will prevent them from growing too big, because maybe to grow to that next stage, they need to raise another few $100 million to have the capital to reach that point. Yeah. And they don't want to dilute their shareholdings below a
certain
level that they're
threshold.
comfortable with. Yeah. So they have to rely on their retained earnings to keep growing. So end up their growth will become slower.
Understand.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's just my speculation.
Yeah. What are the biggest differences in between, book that espouses value investing in the West versus what you see in the East? Because so far in my very short sampling of books that I've read, I think one was what's this guy's name? Dr. Neo Sun Kian.
Yeah, yeah.
Dr. Neo Sun Kian, who wrote a book in the 80s, and then a few books by Malaysian. But if you talk about it, there's not many Malaysian or Asian-based writers that actually talk about it. So, what do you think are the key differences in the styles, the nuances of the companies you invest in Asia versus the West? I mean, yeah.
Yep. I think this goes follow up on just now what we're discussing.
Yeah.
But I would say some of the key things that maybe to the West or to the US market is not that important, but it become a much bigger issue in Asia, right? Things like your family ownership structure, and also one big thing is regulational risk. Right? To the US, maybe when I read through investment books, they might touch on regulation risk, but it's never a huge issue for them to consider, right? But when you're investing, even like, say for Greater China or even in Southeast Asia, that is a key point for us to take note of.
Yes.
And we're looking at Alibaba right now.
Yeah.
Even the largest company in the whole of China, they can face very, very huge consequences if they are on the wrong side of the law. Right?
Yeah.
So this is a big thing that I think is lacking in some of the books that they talk about.
Okay.
And also we have to look at the government involvement in some businesses, because the level of government-linked companies or SOEs in Asia is quite big.
Yes.
And because of that, they operate not purely for the merits of profits, and so the economics of that is different, and how they affect the market can also be different, right? We've seen that in China when they're when they're trying to stimulate the economy without worrying, whether they are bringing overcapacity to the market. They're just flooding the market all over with the commodity products. That's kind of can happen in Asia when you don't necessarily have the what do we call the free market
forces to
economics, right? Yeah.
Not pure capitalism in a way.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Can we go into his history in Motley Fool now?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
actually, I think before Motley Fool, right?
Yeah.
So you talk about Asia, and I think when we talk about Asia, really, when people say Asia because they want to be inclusive, but what they're really saying, right? What they're really saying is China, right? That's really what people say when you should invest in Asia. And so from your point of view, right? Or rather, let me just say, right? There's a lot of reasons people give why they shouldn't invest in China. There's a lot of reasons why they should invest in China, right? This is a very polarizing topic, China. So. And I know that you're pretty big into Hong Kong or China when it comes to your portfolio. So what are your reasons for being in China, investing in China today?
Right. For one, I would say that you're quite right when people say investing in Asia, they're mostly referring to China. But it is also because China so far has proven that they have the most accessible market, at least for foreign investors, for growth market, right? I'm very interested in the Indian market as well, but their stock market is just not that accessible for a foreigner, and that's one of the key that hopefully that will change in the future. But China right now, because of the Shanghai and Shenzhen and Hong Kong Connect, so it's quite easy for us to buy even A shares and B shares market stocks. And why I end up focusing on China is, number one, I'm quite optimistic about them, and because of their large economy, I remember reading the Robert Koch's latest book.
The memoirs.
I'll paraphrase a little bit but I remember it goes something like why he ended up moving to China as well is because when he was growing in Malaysia and Singapore, he realized there's always a ceiling. He can grow and grow, and then he reached a saturation point. But in China is so big that in a lifetime you will never reach that saturation point, right? And that's kind of stuck to me, and it's also a view that I also agree to, which is because the market is so big, and we see now, right, huge Chinese company are coming global as well, right? Not just in ByteDance with TikTok or even hardware like Xiaomi. They are becoming more global companies, and this means that their economics, their addressable market will continuously be bigger and bigger. And these are companies that might grow, for the rest of our lifetime or even my children's lifetime and still not finish growing. So I rather going back to I prefer to just buy one time and forget about it. So I rather just buy one Chinese fast growing and long term growth company compared to if I have to buy a Singapore local company that grow to a certain point. After a few years, it'll be dominating, and then I have to choose another one to start all over again, right?
The runway is longer. That's what you're trying to say. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we go to Motley Fool and what you do at Value Invest Asia. So John, do you have a specific question?
Yeah, actually in the introduction, we forgot to state that actually he is a trained engineer.
Oh yeah.
yeah. And it was more of the transition from being an engineer, getting his first job into Motley Fool. That was what I was trying to link. So maybe can you share with us a little bit about your journey into Motley Fool?
Sure.
What did you enjoy doing at Motley Fool, and was mentorship or guidance in your Motley Fool journey important to where you are as an investor today?
Yep. Yeah, definitely. So we have to go quite a long way back. Like you say, I'm an engineer. I'm a very niche field engineer. I'm an automotive engineer. Mainly I chose it because I love cars so much, but then I realized that you can't really make money in cars in this part of the world.
Unless you become Gili boss.
So after I graduated, my first job was actually with Oriental Holdings.
Honda.
Their automotive division. After working there, I realized that I really cannot make much money in the automotive field, at least here in Southeast Asia. So I decided that I need a career change, and so I took up the CFA program. And I would say I sort of networked my way to my first job in Singapore. And if someone is thinking of having a career change to the finance line, I would say that is probably the easiest way is to join the CFA program and network your way to
That's where you met Man Hong also, right?
job. Yeah. So all of us we met from the CFA Society, and from there, once you're in the industry, I got to know a few more people, and I met up with some of the first few staff of Motley Fool, and that's when I sort of joined them into their new outfit in Singapore. I would say they were just at the beginning of starting the office when I first joined them. Yeah.
How was your journey there? I mean, what did you start doing? And what was your most momentous occasions, and was there any spots that you would have, you think you could have done better?
Right. So in Motley Fool, my main job was doing research and writing out that research to showcase to the world. So through their website. And during that time, I would say it teaches me a lot, because once we write, and then because of Motley Fool from the US, we get more, I would say, feedback on our investing style, and I learned more different type of investing style, and that's where I sort of fine tune my current investing style to where it is now, because there's just a wide diverse few of investors out there, from my Motley Fool journey, and I get to know all of them, and I realized that there is a better way to invest, and I try to incorporate that into my own investing style. But one of the key things that I learned while my time in Motley Fool, from of course the head of Motley Fool Singapore last time, Dr. David Kwok, was actually on communication. Right, he's not just a great investor, but he's a great communicator. Right, if you listen to him, before you understand what I mean. He's just able to have the ability to convey, maybe boring and complicated investing stuff into very simple language and easy to digest format. And that's something that I really admire him for, and I really learn a lot from.
I see.
And from there, I kind of fall in love with this kind of business model.
I see.
The online publishing style of business model. And that's when I decided to start out on my own. I decided to take what I learned from them into the new business.
I see. Yeah.
Right. So I know Stanley's time is a bit short.
Yeah.
So I only have really a couple of questions only.
Yeah.
The first question is, now that you said that you've transitioned into more of a business owner, right? And Buffett said that to be a good investor, you should be a business owner because you get to see things very differently. What do you think have been some of the big revelations you've had running a business?
Right. I'm not sure if I should call Value Invest Asia still as a business. Because to me, it feels more like self-employment, right? But I do feel that running a business teach you a lot of things, because when you have to do everything by yourself, and a key thing is I found that most business person are natural optimists. Right, and that's what I like about the business community, which is you don't get very pessimistic people or down people who are just there to
negative lah. You don't get negative.
You
people.
might be crazy people, but definitely not negative people.
Yeah. So it makes a more exciting world and happier world to live in. Second thing is I realized that if you want to be a really, really successful business person, maybe like Elon Musk, right? That kind of mentality and the kind of drive that you have is something special.
Yeah.
I think not many people has it. I certainly doesn't have that kind of level of drive. And I realized that in investing and in doing business, right? Sometimes I would kind of disagree with Buffett that a good businessman will be a good investor, and vice versa. Mainly because in business, when you are doing, you sort of have to put in, you can't sort of equate your results to your action and your effort, right? So the more you do, the more you put in, or the more you hire people to do, you're expecting better and better results.
Yeah.
But sometimes in investing, the more you do, it's like it can actually be worse.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so true.
The good. Sometimes you have to take a step back.
Yeah.
And just let it be. So I think that is sort of like maybe a cultural crash between good investors and good business person. Yeah. Which sooner or later down the road, maybe it's something you guys have to decide whether you want to be a better business person, or just a better investor.
Yeah, I think it makes sense because I think as a business owner, because you have control, right? So you see something wrong and then you're like, okay, let's go fix it.
Yeah.
But in investing, you're like, something's wrong, and then you get crickets. Unless you're an activist investor, where you can buy a big chunk of the company. That's a very interesting insight.
It's like you're sitting in an aeroplane.
Yeah.
If you're a business owner, you're in the pilot seat lah. But if you're an investor, you're in the passenger seat, right? Even if the plane is going down, right? You cannot say, "Hey, pilot, wake up!" You kind of
have to just take the parachute and just run away, right?
Yeah.
So you talk about what you do right now, the small but comfortable outfit of Value Invest Asia. So let's move from something small to something big, which is since October, I believe, right? You are,
October 2020.
October 2020, you are a director of a public listed company in Malaysia, right? PESTECH International. So I think, we leave all the juicy stuff to the end of the podcast. But basically, can you share with us really, what does PESTECH International do exactly? Because I know it's not the most consumer-facing company out there. And also, what do you think, how can you whet our appetite, for PESTECH in the next week? What's going to happen? What do you think what are the plans, for PESTECH?
Right. So you rightly pointed out. Since end of last year, I was appointed as ED into PESTECH International, and as full disclosure, PESTECH was actually founded by my father and also my cousin. And they are the two key persons that has built up the business to where it is today. But in a summary form, PESTECH is basically an integrated electrical power company. So we build anything from substation, transmission line, solar power plant, anything that do with electricity. Most likely we are able to do it. And we focus a lot on the regional market, where our largest market right now is still Malaysia and Cambodia, right, where we have a presence. So I would say we started out as just a contractor for substation in Malaysia, but we have since diversified more and more into other areas in electrical transmission lines, in system upgrades for even power station. And we recently just got our first solar IPP in Cambodia as well, where we are building it up. So it's a wide range, and we also has started a division to look into the new form of electricity distribution, maybe for EV cars. We have chargers for EV cars, and also what we call a microgrid, where for maybe very very rural areas in the kampong, where sending electrical grid into there just to serve a few hundred residents might not be very feasible for the national grid. Then we will help them build up what we call a microgrid, where it's a combination of solar cells and solar capacitor to store the energy to give power to the people in the rural areas. So these are roughly what we offer right now.
Yeah, in an integrated electrical engineering solutions provider, I would say that. Yeah.
So you're right. We don't have much exposure to the consumer.
No,
consumer line.
There was one time, MJ, I was going down to Kepong and I saw the sign and I took a photo. Hey, I sent it to him. Because they were the only consumer facing.
Yeah, I'm really surprised that it's even there, right?
Yeah, no, because it was next to the LRT line.
Oh, no wonder.
Yeah, they were building. That's the reason why.
Okay, I think that's a lot to look forward to. So, you guys, if you guys are interested, do check PESTECH out. And not a buy sell call, remember, guys.
Exactly.
Stanley, it's been such a pleasure. The only shame is that we cannot extend the podcast a little longer. And looking forward to see you for part 2.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time, Stanley.
And before that, where can people find you?
Oh yes, actually? More important. Where can people find you?
Where can people find you?
Give us a shout out.
Okay, so the easiest way for you guys is to just look me up on YouTube. I think MJ and John has said that my channel is Invest With Stanley. But if you want to look into some of our written reports, you can also check out our website at valueinvestasia.com.
Yeah.
Where you can, as John pointed out, get our book.
Yeah.
Yes, please. I got the book with you guys. I've already read it years ago.
Yeah.
Definitely worth reading. All straight from the mouth of a veteran.
Yeah.
Right?
Otai.
All right. Thank you so much, Stanley. And guys, I hope you thoroughly enjoyed this podcast as we did. And, see you in the next podcast.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.